Executive and Finance Committee meeting to order, please. Councilor Lay, would you do our invocation, please?
Lord, we appreciate the time to come together and do the people's business, and we hope we do it in the way you'd like us to. And in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Roll call, please.
Jack Baker,
Here.
Kara Calvin Watts, Honey, Bill England, Julia Coates, Jody Fishinghawk, here, Meredith Fraley, here, Janelle Fulbright, here, Don Garvin, Chuck Hoskin Jr.,
Here.
China Gloria Jordan, present, Lee Keener,
Homie.
Dick Lay,
Here.
Curtis Snell,
Here.
David Thornton,
Here.
David Walkingstick.
Here.
We do have a quorum.
We do have a quorum. And Councilor Lay made a special request, which as chair I will grant.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We've got Meredith, Chuck, and I have some constituents that we don't see very often, and thank you from District 4, if y'all can stand, my wife Phyllis, and Ruth Ann Weaver, and Debbie West. Ollie Starr may as well be my constituent. Marilyn Van, hope she didn't leave, and thank you all for coming.
Okay. And also, we have a special request from Chief Baker. And congratulations, Chief Baker.
Thank you so much, Jack. You know, it is an honor to come before this body that I love so much in a different position. But I have some good news that I'd like to, if I could pass this out. We've been on the job for a week, and we just got the $39 million released from HUD for our housing. And it's hot off the press, and I just wanted to come over and let you all know that it has been released, and we can get about the business of continuing and improving on taking care of our housing needs in the Cherokee Nation. God bless each and every one of you.
Okay, appreciate it. Thanks for the good news. Okay. Next, I would entertain a motion for the approval of the September 29th regular session minutes.
So moved.
Is there a second? Is there a second?
Yeah, second.
Okay.
I was
This
still, I mean, I
discussion?
had questions about this before we moved on with Chief Baker here.
Someone may need to catch him. But the motion's been made and seconded for the approval of the minutes, and we'll continue with that. Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to amend the agenda.
Yes. Make a motion to amend the agenda?
Yes, sir. A resolution authorizing the submission of grant applications to DOJ. I think everyone has a copy.
Yes.
Second.
Any discussion on amending the agenda?
Call for question.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Yes. Chief Baker, there's a question for you on the letter. Councilor Watts.
Chief Baker, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
So on this, did they resolve through their legal counsel whether or not, like, will we be just frozen again if Nash is not upheld for the Freedmen, or how does that work? I mean, have they put analysis in that? That this is going to be pending upon the outcome for the Freedmen, and we're just in limbo still, even though they freed the money up?
As I'm reading this, and you've, I assume, had a read over this like I did, and the last paragraph pretty much says that as long as we're in compliance. So it's not over, but the $39 million is released.
So they did not rule on the language that Congress passed with regards to the Freedmen?
We're going to have to let the attorneys look at that and answer it for us.
Okay, I would
I don't
appreciate
have
an
that answer.
Well,
Yeah.
at your next opportunity. Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Thank you, Chief Baker. Next are reports with our financial treasurer's report, Ms. Catcher.
Good afternoon, council. You've got my written report, just a couple of things I wanted to go over. First of all, I'd like to give a big thank you to the accounting and finance group. For the 10th year in a row, we received notification that we got the GFOA award on our 2010 annual report. Great job to those staff. And I'd like to especially thank Connie Chandler. She puts that report together for us and does an excellent job. Obviously, everyone contributes. The other thing I wanted to do is, this was the year that we went through our audit proposal process, and we had a selection committee, issued a request for proposals. We did select BKD to be our audit firm, but we're going to have a new engagement partner. Kevin Kemp is our new engagement partner. And then also today, we have Todd Lyle, who's the managing partner for Oklahoma for BKD. And with your indulgence, I'd just like to invite them up to say a few words to council.
Yes, please.
Chairman Baker and members of the committee, we do appreciate the opportunity to continue to serve as BKD audit, or as Cherokee Nation auditors. Like I said, I'm Kevin Kemp. I run the not-for-profit government practice for the South region, and we're honored to continue to be here. And we work forward, you all as a group and as the citizens as a whole. And we're just open to questions and input from y'all as we go through the process. And she said Todd Lyle's here today. He's the managing partner of the Oklahoma offices. And Todd, you want to say anything?
Just to introduce myself and just to put another face and name with our organization, who, as Kevin mentioned, we're very honored to be able to continue to serve the Cherokee Nation. And if you have issues, if you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I've got a few cards and I'll leave them with you, Chairman Baker. That'd be all right. And if anything comes up that you need to talk to me about, my phone is always open and I can be here as need be. But again, thank you all for the opportunity to introduce ourselves and continue to serve you guys.
And we appreciate your being here today. And we'll look forward to working with you all. Appreciate it. Good meeting you.
Thank you. That concludes my report, unless there are any questions.
Any questions for Ms. Catcher? Very good, Captain.
Thank you.
Next is Cherokee Nation Businesses. Mr. Stewart.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
And so first, contrary to popular belief, I still have a job. I'm still here. A lot of rumors flying around, so if there's anything you want to know, I'd be happy to address those. You have the financial report with a lot of detail. In summary, there are a couple of things you need to remember about that report. It does not include the business interruption that we will receive from the collapse of Casino 3 at Hard Rock. So that claim is about $12 million through the year end, but that is not reflected on the financial statements until we receive it. That's the accounting rule. So keep in mind that number is still out there. A couple of important things with the company, C&I's Logistics Group. We announced that we received a $42 million contract with the government. That was a couple of months ago. We received another $42 million this last couple of weeks. So that makes $84 million for the next 5 years. So C&I is doing well on the logistics side. They're still struggling on the wire harnessing side of the business. It's very competitive. Price point is very low. And so we're looking at ways to try to make that more profitable. So it's offsetting, but we're still working on the other side of that business. The projects are underway. We're approximately a year out, so I'll just keep you updated on those projects. If there's anything unusual, I'll report it. Otherwise, everything is fine. We have the budget complete for 2012. That's available. What I will do is send a summary copy to you all so you can have a copy of it. That was approved by the board, so you can look at the detail of that and look at the different budgets for the companies. We are going to have an orientation for the council coming up in November, so we'll work out some dates that work for everyone to give everybody a chance to get an update on what we're doing, how we're doing it, and give some of the new council members a chance to get more familiar.
Good.
So if there are any questions, I'd be happy to.
Any questions for Mr. Stewart? Counselor Lane?
David, the Ramona Casino kind of had a little bit of a hiccup getting started. Are you going to be on schedule with it, do you think? Or?
Well, we're going to try to catch up. We lost about a month trying to save some money. We have some alternatives, but we're going to lose a little bit of time with that.
Okay. Any other questions? Did well. Appreciate it,
Okay,
Dave.
thank you.
Next, Career Services, Diane Kelly.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman,
afternoon.
members of the committee. You've got my report, because I know you have a long agenda, and I won't be long-winded, because I'll allow you to ask me any questions you want to ask.
Any questions for Diane?
Good to see you, ma'am.
You're getting on for that?
Oh,
Counselor Thorpe, you didn't quite make it, Diane.
Diane, would you consider the day work program helping out our people in the rural areas, or it wouldn't make any difference? Just if one needs a roof put on the house, could we, and they have the materials there, could we use day work to help put those roofs on the houses?
yeah, we can, as long as we can tie it in with one of our programs that we've got going on right now for insurance purposes. If, for instance, if it was like roofing, we could tie it in with either Sharon's program or one of David's programs, and somebody could actually oversee it, so that way they're tied in and we could assign them to one of the programs. There's no
Could you
problem
see-
with that.
Okay, could you kind of check into that and come up with that program so we can use it? We've got different things, all the way from that to remodeling, putting in handicap accessible ramps, and, several things that we've got a program that they can receive the funding of so much, and they put the supplies on the property, and then they need someone to help them.
Are you talking about the program where they can actually come in and fill out paperwork for just supplies only?
Yes.
And if they're like elderly and they need help doing
Yeah.
that? Okay. That would be probably through community
That would be
development.
great.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Shirley, Counselor Walkingston.
On the Tarot, do we shuttle employees to different job sites?
Do we shuttle?
Yeah, like a transit system?
No.
to job
There is a
sites?
transit system, and it's through the Community Development Department, and Sherry Waters is over the transit program under Michael Lynn.
Okay. We'd like to maybe partner in the future with the Tarot on getting employees, because there's some jobs that are way outside, that we have a lot of constituents in Cherokee County that may qualify for jobs outside the jurisdiction, and we'd like to maybe set up a transit to get our constituents over to those areas.
There is right now through the transit program, which is Pell Van and CATS, and then the ones that we have here at Cherokee Nation. There is a program called Ride to Work, where if they're actually getting on the van and they're actually going to and from a job, then there is a little bit of a discount for them to ride that. And it is a lot cheaper for them to ride it. I have employees right now who are riding the CATS transit system to and from work, and they get a little bit of a discount, and it's a lot cheaper for them to ride that than it is for them to buy a tank full of gas.
How far out do they travel?
There is schedules right now, and I can get with David Sutherland and have him to have Sherry get that transit route for you, because she coordinates with Pell Van and with CATS, and she could show you where those routes are. If there is my understanding is from visiting with Charlotte and Grand Gateway, that if there is a group of people that are in a location and they're going to be working in another location, and there's pretty much a guarantee that there's going to be like 6 to 10 that's going to ride it, they can set up places to pick them up, designated places along the route.
What about the day work program? Do we have a transit system set up for day work?
We do have some day workers that do ride the transit system. I'll be honest with you, a lot of them come in one vehicle, and there's like 4 or 5 that'll get out of that vehicle.
Yeah. Yeah, if you would, just have them give me the cost, what it is per mile, it's per mile. Todd,
Go ahead, Todd.
I'm trying to answer that because I've been working with them on setting up a couple other transit systems in and around cities and municipalities as well. Right now, it's typically done, we have several routes that we've set up and they fluctuate based on ridership. So one day it may be from Pryor to Tahlequah and ridership drops off because somebody's laid off or something happens. And so they adjust that, and so for the next 6 months, it may be from Claremore to Tahlequah. And so it's based on ridership and when we have people riding it. They get about a 50% discount based on if they ride that route. Otherwise, there is a dial and demand. So basically they call in and say, I need to schedule delivery from this point to this point. We have partnerships with 4 different transit authorities in the region, and they have a geographic region that they have to subscribe to. So we'd have to check and see if it's work outside of their counties of operation based on the federal funding they receive, if they can go outside that or not. So it's all the transit stuff that we do is based on partnership with those 4 transit authorities.
hey Todd, what if, say a person lived in Cherokee County needed, and there was work going on with the Taro in Benita, and that they needed to be there by 8? Like,
Yeah,
how would that work?
We can discuss that and see what kind of work. So if we have construction workers that are going to go to the Benita Clinic and work as a sub on a project or work on a particular detail at the Benita Clinic, we can set up and work with CATS or whoever and set up a route that takes them up there, and they'll leave Tahlequah as early as 5 or 5:30 in the morning to get them up there.
Or they may have to meet Pell Band at a
Yeah,
certain
we may have to drop them off and use multiple transit
Can we
systems.
advertise that service to our Taro employees?
Yes, if they're having transportation problems and they let us know, then we can direct them to the CATS or Pell Band, depending on where they actually live.
Okay. Well, I mean, we need to advertise it, because a lot of people aren't aware of our transit systems. I wonder if some way we could make that just part of the Taro, that they know that there's going to be transportation available if they don't have
We
transportation.
can work with you. If you got specific details, we can talk to the transit authorities and set up specific transit routes and adjust things as necessary.
I believe Sherry put some posters in some of our field offices. She's been at some of our job fairs, and I believe there is a poster in one of our field offices that I saw the other day where there is the information about transportation in the transit system. I believe it was in the J office where I saw it.
Okay.
Okay.
That's it. Thank you,
Okay.
Chair. Thanks.
Counselor Smith. Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry, I had Counselor Watson before that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to say congratulations to you and your team, and thank you for a great job on that 4th annual Taro Fair and Banquet. It was outstanding, and I got lots of positive remarks and from our Taro vendors that they really appreciate and value that opportunity every year.
Thank
So
you.
thank you.
Thank you. And I apologize that I didn't even bring that up. But we had, thank you, Councilwoman Watts. We did have our 4th annual Taro Banquet and our vendor fair this year. And Veronica in Commerce told us that they had probably a bigger crowd than they've ever had for the Taro Vendor Fair. And the booths and the vendors that were there, I believe, networked very well with all of the other people that were there. So I think it was a good day for that. And then our banquet is growing in leaps and bounds. I think there was hardly a few chairs left. We know that there was 400 plus people there. And so that's an indication that our Indian businesses are growing.
Good. Counselor Snell.
Diana, can we use the day's work program for like, in our Indian housing communities where the houses has been abandoned or nobody lives there? A lot of the places got brush and stuff growing up in the yards and nobody clean it. We use that program to clean that property up.
Yes, you can, if we can tie it with one of our existing programs, and there would be actually somebody through that program that could actually go out there and supervise. That would be one way to do it. So that way they're covered on insurance.
So how do we go about? I'll visit with you, we'll get a
Okay.
plan set up or something.
Okay.
But up at Oaks,
What we'll do is I'll go back and talk to some of the group leaders and ask them who in their respective areas could actually oversee some of this. And it might be that they would look at doing some pilot projects in some of the rural areas to see how it would work, and then we could report back to you.
Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you.
Surely. Any other questions for Diane? Okay.
Thank you.
Please stay in.
Misha.
Next is Commerce, Ms. Knight.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
You do have a copy of my reports. I would like to mention that at the vendor fair this year, we did have 140 vendors that set up booths, and we also had youth that participated in our summer entrepreneurship camp at Marietta. They were selling their wares, and so they made enough money to pay back the money we loaned them, and to each group made about $50 or $60. So that was a neat aspect this year. I will also tell you that on November 29th, we're going to have, well, the SBA is coming to Tahlequah, and they're going to conduct a Youth Entrepreneur Summit, and Deputy Administrator Marie Johns should be attending that event, so that should be a good event. Other than that, you have my report. I also did send the information on the portfolio, and I just sent it yesterday, so I apologize for the lateness, and I can answer questions about that at the next meeting if you have them.
Okay. Any questions for Hannah? Okay. Thank you, Hannah.
Thank you.
Next is the Cherokee National Historical Society, Mr. Telly.
Good afternoon. It's
Afternoon.
good to see y'all today. I appreciate y'all giving me a chance to talk to you. You have a copy of my report. There's a lot of good things happening out at the Heritage Center. Despite the heat this summer, I don't know, some of you new ones may not know that I report quarterly and not monthly. So the numbers were down a little bit this summer from last year, but they're still well above our average over the last 5 or 6 years, so that's good. I would like to call special attention to what we've been doing with kids in school groups. We had an Ancient Cherokee Days program and had over 1,800 kids and their students and chaperones over a 3-day period this year, and that shattered our old record. I think last year we had about 1,300, which shattered the record for that. So we are growing with what we're doing with schools, and that's real exciting. And we actually have a program next week that we do in partnership with the Cherokee Nation's co-partner program, and I think we're expecting another multitude for that one. I haven't heard the final numbers, but potentially well over 1,000 again. So I'm hoping. So anyway, do you have any questions for me?
Questions for Mr. Telly?
Okay,
Thanks very much, Gary. Next is the Cherokee Nation Foundation.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. And you're sitting in for Kimberly.
Heather Sourjohn. Kimberly is not able to be here today. You have our report. Does anyone have any questions or comments?
Any questions for Heather? Okay. Thanks very much, Heather. Okay. Moving on to our consent items, we have the Terrell certifications. They're in your packet. I entertain a motion for their approval.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion?
Is this for all the consent items in toto?
No. It's just for the Terrell.
Okay.
Okay. Any discussion on the Terrell? Yes, Mr. Wilkinson.
When is the Terrell Subcommittee going to meet? Is Councilor Callen here, the chairman?
McMahon?
Yes.
So
Although that doesn't pertain to the motion that's on the floor right now.
No.
you are welcome to strike that because I asked for offline on that anyway, so. May I proceed and answer?
But you may, go ahead.
So I asked if we could start in January so that the new administration, who I would assume want to participate in those discussions, and we didn't know what personnel changes might impact that. Before we started anything, that we would start in January. So I never got clarification on one council person's email what it actually meant, if we were supposed to wait or proceed, and so silence is concurrence. I was gonna start in January.
Okay.
Yeah. We
Okay.
can set a date in January, like before rules committee
You
or.
will get a notification when it's set,
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
Okay, the motion that's on the floor is to approve the Terrell certifications. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, those are approved. Next are the cemetery restoration assistants, and those were passed out. There's 11 of those. And I entertain a motion for their approval.
Motion so made.
Is there a second? Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Those are approved. Next are the community assistants, and that was passed out today also.
I have one there.
Okay. Doug, are you ready for the additions?
Sir.
Okay. Counselor Corey Jordan.
D.D. Etcherson, we've sponsored an activity hall that's been built there up on the other end of town, and David and I would like to split 500 to help them with chairs and tables. And additionally, there are 3 on here, Family Christian Center, which is for tables and chairs, Swimmer Baptist Church, which is their veterans program, and Ten Killer School, which is their holiday fundraiser. And is it
I like-
correct, David, we want to split that
Yes.
cost? Okay.
Let's split that.
The 3 that are in there will be split,
In District
but still
1.
be total 500 each.
Yes.
And then we're adding a 4th, which will also be split, that D.D. Etcherson.
It's not on here.
Okay. Okay, one more time. Is the total contribution 1,000 or 500? Total?
500 for each one of them, but split.
Be 2,000 though.
No.
$250.
No,
Yeah,
it'd
it'd be total of
Total
2,000.
2,000, but 1,000 out of mine, 1,000 out of hers.
For all 4?
For all 4.
250 each
from
per
each one
organization.
of them.
Okay, that's all I need. All right, thank you.
Okay. And you had that clear, right, Doug?
Yes.
Are there any other additions? Okay, I'd entertain a motion for the community assistance as amended.
Motion.
Move for approval?
Yeah.
Is there a second?
A second.
Okay. Discussion?
I just had a
Councilor
question,
Watts.
if the sponsoring council person maybe had more information, because I was unfamiliar with the Cooey Scooey organization. And I know, since we're part of that, people will ask. So who would they contact, and what is it, so that we can let people know?
Yes, capital A.
It's a new organization, started approximately about 2 months ago, I believe. Got about, I think, close to 30 members. The contact point is Ruth Ann Weaver. She's here today. You can speak to her if you like. And they've got a nice little group going, and they're just starting, and they need a little startup money.
Okay,
And they're mostly Cherokee.
very good, thank you.
Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And the assistance is approved as corrected. The law enforcement request of the R9 and the roads. And roads was also passed out today.
Just that one project was added, Mr. Chairman, for Mr. Hoskin on north-south 4400 road project, $25,000 out of fuel tax.
Okay. Entertain a motion for its approval. So moved. There's a second. Okay, any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, very good. Next is old business, there's none pending. Under new business, we have a legislative act, and who would like to take that? Jody, Tynan, Chuck? Councilor Hoskin.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, this legislation was last approved in Health Committee, as I recall. It would increase the C&D dividend by 5%, bringing it to 35%, and it would earmark that money for healthcare purposes. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I move for its approval.
Second, with a friendly.
Okay. Yes.
Okay,
Friendly.
my friendly would be, first, that we inadvertently left Janelle Fulbright off as a co-sponsor, and she would like to be added as a co-sponsor. And then, under section 4:18, at the end of the underlined part, we need to add, so long as the amount of the increase, in parentheses, over the current 30%, close parentheses, is conditioned upon C&E and C&B remaining in compliance with the financial covenants in the credit agreement and the C&E guarantee. And I would offer that as a friendly amendment, and I have the written, and this is in consultation with C&E. They have checked with the banks, and in order for this 5% to increase to take place, this wording needs to be in there to satisfy the bank requirements.
Can you have a copy made for all of us? Or, well, first, do you accept it as a friendly?
No objection, yes, I accept.
Okay. You will have a copy made for the body? Okay. Councilor
Yeah.
Thorne. Oh, excuse me, I had Councilor Watts first, and Councilor Thorne.
Mr. Chairman, I have passed out an amendment to this act, and I would also like to include the language that Councilwoman Glory Jordan included as well. But I would like to make a motion to approve as provided with also the language from Councilwoman Glory Jordan.
Okay. So are you asking for a friendly or a?
No, I'm just gonna make the motion.
Is there a second? Okay. And that's the one that's handed out with the red?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. So the motion's been made that.
So just,
Is this a point of order?
so just to make sure.
Oh, go ahead.
So just to make sure, the primary parts of this would be not to increase it by 5%, but go for an additional 10% of the dividend. And we need to make sure and define it for Cherokee Nation citizens and address it to those areas of need, because there's a number of counties that aren't served by Cherokee Nation Contract Health, both inpatient and outpatient. And that's as provided in the map, so it impacts every district today on the council, except for at-large, because we don't serve them in that capacity. But this would definitely help make sure that we better the quality of life for, I believe it's 10 of the counties, and that would be Wagner, Washington, Nowata, Craig, Mays, Delaware, McIntosh, Muskogee, Rogers, and Tulsa counties, which are currently not covered by contract health service with Cherokee Nation, which has the 96% approval rate. It's Claremore Indian Hospital or Creek Nation, which tends to be less than 50% approval rate for contract health service. So that way we make sure that our tribal monies generated by our businesses are designated for Cherokee Nation citizens, and it would address the divide between the citizens that live in our communities versus citizens that live like here in Cherokee County, which is completely covered by contract health service for Cherokee Nation with the 96% approval rate, because we need to bring equity to that. And I would fully support that. Otherwise, we're not going to give, I mean, it's like Rogers County is completely covered by Claremore Indian Hospital, for example. They would see none of this money, whether it was 5% or 10%, they would get none because they're not addressed by Cherokee Nation Contract Health Service, neither inpatient or outpatient. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councilor Hoskin.
Was the councilwoman making this as a friendly amendment?
No, she made it as a separate motion.
Oh,
Do
okay.
you want to accept it as a friendly?
I do not, but I just
Okay.
wasn't sure where we were in the process.
No, it was a separate motion, and it was seconded by Mr. England.
Okay. Then can I speak?
Yes.
Well, I appreciate their work on this. I don't agree that the original legislation left folks in Rogers County or any of the counties serviced by Claremore out of the 5%. The fact of the matter is we already use tribal dollars to address the contract health shortage everywhere, including areas that are served by Claremore. We do that in the Back to Work program. We take tribal dollars and we match them with Cherokees who were denied. We're doing the same thing here. This is not anything new in terms of procedure. It's very doable. I believe we addressed this in an earlier committee, Mr. Chairman, but the statement that, that if we increase this 5% or 10% as it is written now, the money won't go to Cherokees living in Rogers counties or some of the other counties up north, I just don't agree with. I don't think that's an accurate statement. And if it bears repeating that we already do this in the Back to Work program. So I think I certainly understand that there's a problem with Claremore IHS in terms of meeting the needs of our citizens. I deal with it every day. And if I wasn't satisfied that the legislation as written, if I thought it would leave our folks up north out in the cold, certainly wouldn't support it. Fact is, it will support our folks. Those dollars will come up north. So I fully support the legislation as written and would encourage us not to pass the amendment. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Any other discussion on the motion? Okay. Councilor Gloria Jordan.
I would just point out that the banks have only approved that we go to 35%. There was never talk, and Mr. Stewart is here. My understanding, and you tell me if I'm speaking out of turn, but my understanding is we've only talked with the banks about an additional 5%. And we've not talked with the banks about anything else. And two, I'm very concerned that this appears to be an attempt to split the council on such a good idea by leaving out 3 counties and including the rest of the counties. If we really want to take care of the situation that we seem to have up at Claremore, then we need to be talking about an assumption of the Claremore facility and not doing what we're doing here. For years we've known that the Claremore facility has not been able to provide for Cherokees in many situations. That is a bigger issue where we need to talk about an assumption of their activities there. And that is for another day. That what we're doing here is only going to create divisiveness within our group, and it's going to leave a great number of Cherokees unserved, regardless of all the statistics and things that have been sent in to us just in the last few minutes. And I urge you to pass our original motion, and let's do what we've been talking about for months through 3 committees now, is let's take this 5%, let's set it aside for the good of all of our Cherokee people, and then let's solve the problems and issues that we have concerning the Claremore facility at another time by talking about the assumption of that facility and duties. Thank you.
Councilor Keener.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This has been in 2 committees, and still my understanding is that in the IHS, they have 4 priorities, and they don't get to priority 2, 3, or 4. They stay on priority 1. It doesn't matter to them if you're Cherokee or Choctaw or whatever nation you are. So all this 5% will not go to the Cherokee people in that case, in that regard. So they don't look at, if they look at it only through medical means, they don't look at anything else. So if you're priority 1, that's what they treat first. It doesn't matter if you're Cherokee or not. So all of that money will not go to Cherokees. So I say let's use that for scholarships. If we're not going to give it to Cherokees, let's give it to the Cherokee students. What I'm saying is let's give it only to Cherokees. And that's the only way I can see. It's our money and it should be spent on Cherokees alone. So they said they could spend up to $500,000 a week just in Claremore alone. And so that 5% wouldn't go very far across the whole 14 counties. So I don't know how else to put it other than this 5% will not go to all Cherokee, the only Cherokees as in its present form. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councilor Brady.
Sure, I have a number of questions that I have submitted to David, and it may relieve some questions in other people's mind also, and I gave Janelle a copy. David?
Yes.
Would you mind coming forward? Whether it's 5% or 10%, what is the impact on the current plans for growth and expansion of existing and newly acquired businesses?
Well, the allocation of funds that we have is about $20 or $30 million in that kind of range for acquisition. So initially at the 5% level, I was very comfortable. The projections showed that it really wouldn't impact, if that it's about $5 million a year is what we're talking about. So that would not impact enough for us to be concerned that we couldn't diversify. The $10 million is another issue. I haven't really run that trap, so it would be essentially, $10 million a year. So, I mean, it is what it is. So, we'd just be subject to $5 million less than we would with 5% to do those kinds of diversification efforts. So it's really the council's judgment on that. I mean, I hate to be vague about that, but you have so much money to do that. It depends on how aggressive the diversification plan is. If it's very aggressive, then 10% might be too high. If it's not aggressive, 10% would not be a problem. Okay, so until we really know what our diversification effort is going to be, it's very difficult to make those kinds of projections in the future. We have a substantial amount of cash in the bank. We're in a good financial position. We don't have any bank debt. All right, so I think to wrap in a diversification effort that we really knew what that was going to be would be a little more appropriate for me to basically say we're going to be able to do it, because I don't know what that is. I know what we had before. I think diversification effort might change in this administration, but without knowing what that is, it's very difficult.
Well, I noticed that you had a 19% growth in non-gaming revenue, which created a 7.4% increase to the nation, which was $30.6 million this year.
Right.
So looks to me like you're on a fairly good path.
We are on a fairly good path, and those companies are making money. They are increasing the dividend, and assuming that holds, then I would say that we would have enough funds to do that.
You said you had, may I continue, Mr.
Yes. Yeah.
You said you had a considerable amount of cash.
Right.
Well, what's the impact on cash flow? And I've asked him to project this.
Right.
Considering in a few years, we will renegotiate our compact with the state.
Well, our look at that has been that we want to have our casinos paid for.
Mm-hmm.
We want to be very aggressive in these years to expand. because once you build the casino, you need 3 or 4 or 5 years to pay for it, right? Because the returns are going down as we go because the markets are more saturated. The returns might still be good. They still might be in the 10, 15% range, which is a good return, but they may not be 20 or 30 like they used to be. So we really wanted to be aggressive now to get the casinos paid for, get the debt paid off, so that when we went into the compact negotiations, if the tax rate did increase, that we wouldn't be trying to pay off the casinos when that increase occurred. We don't know what that rate's going to be. We have a very favorable rate today that's 6%. That depends on, the negotiations with the state and how that goes. That tax rate could go up. So our business strategy, and that's why we're building Fort Gibson and these expansions, is to get them paid off currently when we have this low tax rate and this cash. I think our cash flow said that we would have about $60 million in debt by the end of the year, assuming that we built all the casinos that we had. And so then we would pay that down. Our cash flow is about $10,000 a month after the dividend. So the key is the diversification effort. We can pay for the casinos. If we have a very aggressive diversification effort, then we're going to need all the cash we can get.
Also, David, if the UKB is allowed to take land in trust, as you know, that's out
Right.
there, how would that type of competition affect our profits?
Well, as you know, right now, we are in non-competitive markets. 60% of our cash flow is protected by non-competition markets. 40% is not. So every time we incur competition, it substantially affects our ability to make money. We found that out with Blue Ribbon. When Blue Ribbon was taken out of business, our net income went up substantially. So every time there's competition, it does decrease our cash flow and net income. We've proved that time after time. So I would view that as a competitive threat.
Okay, thank you. And the interest rate won't be affected?
No, I think the bank would not affect the interest rate no matter what we did on the dividend rate.
Okay.
And as I talked with Councilman Jordan as the sponsor, there needs to be a provision in the legislation that says, no matter what percentage it is, that the increase in the dividend would only be allowed by the banks if it did not put us in non-compliance with our financial covenants. We have to meet certain financial covenants in terms of working capital, debt to equity, and those kinds of ratios. So what the banks have done is they said, you can increase it. And I'm not sure they would, I don't think they would mind as long as you said, you can't do it if it puts you in non-compliance, whether it's 5 or 10%. I don't think they would care. But I have not had that discussion with them about 10%, but I don't think they would care.
I think it'd be better, rather than increase the dividend, I think it'd be better for you to increase the profits.
Yeah, we're trying to do that. We're trying to do
Mr.
that.
Chair.
Okay. Thank you. Counselor Watts.
Thank you. Just to clarify for the record, the way I understand from the email that was handed out, it wasn't specific. It was any increase. There was a range of increases that were talked about, so there's nothing necessarily tied to the 5%. As long as we can meet our credit obligations, we have no debt
That's
right
true.
now, and we have $50 million in the bank. So
That's true. I would just have to say, I just did not have the 10% discussion with the bank. I had a 5%.
but there's
I'm not-
nothing that precludes it.
That's true. You're exactly right.
Thank you.
Counselor Hoskin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate Councilman Keener's comments, but I do think that the councilman's concerns are misplaced about, again, money not going to the Cherokees. We're not handing the Claremore Indian Hospital cash and telling them to spend it on contract health. That's not just me talking, it's the director of Claremore IHS in one of our previous committee meetings. we're doing nothing different than we're doing again in the Back to Work program. If a Cherokee is denied, as the councilman has suggested they may be because of the categorization of their health condition, that denial would result in going to this additional amount of money. You're not going to get a non-Cherokee that has access to this money. I challenge anyone to show me a non-Cherokee who's gotten a nickel of the Back to Work program money. It never happened, won't happen, can't happen. The same is true with this money. I do have concerns, and again, I say this as a representative of one of these areas that would benefit greatly from this, but I think it's to the detriment of some of our neighbors further to the south. Todd, are you available?
Yeah.
And this strikes me as raising a question about, are we treating citizens the same under the law? Does that raise any legal questions?
Well, yes, I believe it does. I was just handed the proposed amendment minutes before the committee convened here. The Cherokee Nation Constitution has an equal protection clause. And what an equal protection clause is that similarly situated people will be treated the same under the process of any ordinance or statute. That is why that we can't, say that we're going to pass an act that is only going to benefit 1/4 blood quantum Cherokees. Or we can't just pass an act saying that only citizens that live in Sequoyah County can benefit from this pool of money. I believe that when you add in language to a statute that says that money from this can only go exclusively to citizens that reside in particular counties of the jurisdictions, you very well may run into equal protection clauses. And this is something that I think the council will need to be very careful about in getting to the point that you set one class of citizen up above someone else. Right here, someone could come and argue that if I was a resident of Adair County, is that, look, you have specifically said that this person gets more access to money than I do, so that's a denial of equal protection. Again, this is just something that I've been able to look at just briefly on the amendment, but it is something that the council needs to consider in its deliberations.
And Mr. Chairman, I would just reiterate that there's nothing in the language of the current legislation that would give a penny of this money to a non-Cherokee. It's just not there. It's just not a concern. It's just not an argument that holds water, frankly. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councilor Rainey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Todd, on the equal protection, then our people that are up north that are not receiving the same amount, because we have like 5,300 denials from year to date right now. We have about 717 already for the month of August. But everybody in these other areas are getting served, but our people are going without contract health. And to me, if we don't support this for our area, we're just basically ignoring the areas that are without contract health, and we get calls every day.
And they very well, equal protection can go either way, either through the enactment of the law or the effect of the law. But what we're doing here is the actual enactment of, the effect, not the effect of the law, but the enactment of the law. Now, the deal is on that is that the cure in this is more adapt to the carrying out of the policy as the carrying out of the policies of how contract health is administered. And I'm not a health expert. I'll be perfectly honest how that carries out. Why does there is a what criteria they use to accept or reject someone else? That is something for the health director. Here is that, why I caution is that when you start at, the passing acts that only people that live in a certain jurisdiction can benefit from it, well, that's clearly on its face, someone could argue an equal protection, and that's why I bring that issue up. Now, would they have a suit if that the effect of the law is a de facto denial of equal protection? Maybe so, and they would have the right to bring a cause of action. But when you put it on the face itself, that is what throws up the red flag to me.
So in your opinion, if we had all 14 counties on there, that would clear it up?
If you make it available to any Cherokee citizen, regardless of their jurisdictional areas, whether it's 10% or 30% or 40%, that's a horse of a different color. But in order to avoid equal protection argument, you need to make it available to everyone equally.
So could I make a friendly amendment to add all 14 counties so our areas will be served with?
I'll accept, and he's my second.
Okay. Okay. Next, Counselor Lay.
Well,
I just said point of order.
Point of order?
Yeah, this was a friendly to the councilwoman's.
Yes, it is.
Motion to amend. I just wanted to, thank you.
Excuse me, Counselor Lay.
okay, thank you. Well, from the time I first raised my hand until now, a lot of things have happened. But one of the things I wanted to perhaps clarify was Councilman Keener's statement that this money might not get to Cherokee citizens. And if it does not, then I would not vote for any of this. This has to go to Cherokee citizens. Councilman Hoskins said it will. Perhaps there can be some language that we make doggone daggum sure it goes to members of the Cherokee Nation. And I also, it's amazing to me when I hear, Jill and Kara talk about their constituents. I go through the same thing. Had a guy call me the other day and he said he's gonna whip me if I don't get his son's back surgery done. This gentleman is a tough man, and he could whip 2 or 3 of us at one time, but he finally calmed down and said because of the Claremore Indian Hospital thing, the kid can't get his back surgery, and he can't walk. And so I'm for whatever it takes to fix this. And we've been, I know you all have been at this a long time. My son went through this 16 damn years ago, and we still ain't fixed it. Now, I don't know what the fix is, whether it's our policy that's messing this up. If it's our policy, let's fix it. I don't know if this is the absolute right thing to do, but we need to make sure we fix it. This council seems to be ready to fix it. And, if there's legal problems with the policy that we have now, can't we fix that? And or can't we also take this 5% or whatever you all want to take and put a Band-Aid on it? But it needs to be repaired, it needs to be fixed. And I guarantee you, Chuck Hoskins Sr., 16 years ago, was fighting this same fight, along with Bill Baker and others who wanted to fix it, and we're still talking about it. Whatever it takes to fix it, let's figure it out and move forward and fix it. And that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Councilor Fishing.
I think there's a lot of concerns here that need to be addressed at the federal level. I, for one, would not begrudge anybody one contract health dollar, if I knew it can be fixed. But it can't be. The federals have our contract health service areas set up. I may be mistaken, but I remember sitting here in health when Claremore Indian Hospital addressed us, and they said if we give them health dollars, they could not guarantee, contract health dollars, they could not guarantee it would go to Cherokees. They would have to give it to everybody, which is why I'm voting the way I did. I think the friendly amendment that was just mentioned to put in all 14 counties is repetitive because it's not mentioned. The first act we've got doesn't even limit it, so it's kind of repetitive. And even if it was added, I'm looking at the one that was submitted to us, is this earmark is still only for those who today are served by either or both inpatient or outpatient. So it don't matter if we have the friendly amendment or not, folks. It still cuts out the heart of Cherokee Nation. They're cutting out Sequoia, they're cutting out Cherokee, they're cutting out Adair counties. And that's the facts. I am very much with Mr. Lay here saying we need to fix it. We need to lobby at the federal level to get it changed. It does need fixed. Because I represent Delaware and Adair County, and guess what? Adair County, we go here, Delaware, we go to Claremont. And I don't agree with it. I'm having to face calls all the time because my district's divided, and I do believe it needs fixed. Matter of fact, I got 3 service areas, folks. Ottawa's Miami tribe. You all deal with that. I have got 3 service areas. You all think you got a headache with 2? Throw Miami in there. But I'm going to be voting no for it. I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's right, and I think it needs fixed higher than this level.
Okay. Counselor Coates.
Okay, well, like Councilor Lay said, the discussion has gone way beyond where I jumped in to speak, but thoughts that are coming up. If we're talking about equal protection clauses, Todd, I would like to ask, because it seems to me that we implement policies all the time that in fact favor certain Cherokees over others. My people, for instance, my constituents are entirely left out. So where is the equal protection clause there, even with discretionary tribal monies? That don't have federal restrictions on them oftentimes are still restricted by this body and this nation to people within the boundary. So I would suggest that we do employ, unequal protection clauses all the time without dispute. The 96% service within 3 counties versus the 50%, I guess that was a rhetorical question, perhaps.
Okay, that's why I sit down.
Thank you. I spoke your name, sorry, that caused you to leap to the front. But the 96% within 3 or 4 counties here versus the 50% in law, we deal with that all the time in sort of affirmative action types of ways, inequities that are set up to create equitability, in other words. And it seems to me that this is sort of what Councilor Watt's amendment is attempting to do. That in fact there is, in effect, an inequity, a very gross inequity. It would appear, according to the data that I've been presented today, and that this would, the effect of it would be perhaps to remedy some of that inequity to a great extent. Comments that have been made, I don't know what the fix is for the areas, the northern areas and so forth. Well, I think one of the fixes, and I disagree that there isn't a fix for it, I think there is. One thing would be if the Cherokee Nation were to assume operation of Claremore Indian Hospital. That would pretty well fix all of this if we were to do that in the same way that we have done with Hastings. But it's my understanding that Chief Baker has made promises to the employees there that won't be done. But that would take care of a lot of this, because at this time it's tribal policy alone pretty much that precludes us from being able to service in those areas, to provide these services. I also just want to go on record that I think that for a number of years now, we've all been hearing about the heart of the Cherokee Nation, and I want to recall Councilor Cobb's comment from the last session of this, that the appendages of the Cherokee Nation are also important. And so for all of those that are in the other areas and who know that there's a lot of heart and soul in our people too, once again, we could, if people truly are interested in not dividing this nation, perhaps we could dispense with putting forward certain areas as being the heart above and beyond other areas. So thank you. Those are my comments.
I have 5 other people waiting, and then I'm going to call a halt to the discussion on this amendment to the initial motion. Councilor Watts.
Could I wait till the end as the sponsor of the amendment?
Okay. Councilor Fraley.
David, I have one more question. I forgot. How will this increase affect bonuses for the employees
Well, it depends on whether or not the, it does not allow us to expand and increase revenues and profits. If the dividend does restrict expansion and our ability to buy companies and build casinos, it will limit net income and limit corresponding bonuses. All right? If it doesn't, it won't.
Councilor Thorne.
Oh, God. Some of my questions have been answered, some of them hadn't. Mr. Lay, I'm gonna tell you, just straight out. As far as contract health is concerned, CNB don't make enough funding to take care of our contract health if we want to pay for all of it. Federal government, I don't think they'll step in and pay for it. And so what this is just a Band-Aid fix. And the thing is, this Band-Aid needs to be on every clinic that's out there. It don't need to be just on one. I don't know where they got their estimates that 96% of our contract health people are getting it paid for. That isn't right. We just got through visiting with our head man down there at Redbird. He said that's our biggest problem is contract health. We can't get enough money for contract health. So all these other clinics aren't receiving the contract health that they're saying. Now, if you take eyeglasses and dentures and prosthesis and that type of thing, well, 96% of the people probably are getting it. And the other 4% are people that really just don't qualify. So I'm here, I'm going to vote for this 5%. I'm not going to vote for the 10% because I think all our people need to be covered under this legislative act. And I know that Mr. Stewart's sitting back there and he's drawed up because, you know, I may want to make another 10% for Sequoia County. So that's going to hurt him even further, you know. And I'm sure Adair County.
We go in here.
But there's no fix for contract health. I mean, you could go out there today and you could spend millions upon billions of dollars to take our people and cure every one of them or try to cure them. And we can't cure them all. And I understand what they're going through. I've got it right there, just like you said, you got a call. I've been called. I've had them say, you know, I'm going to whip your so-and-so, but if you are, come on down. That's the only thing I can tell them. But they probably won't meet me, they'll probably meet one of my sons. The thing is that I'm for this 5%. I was for it 6 years ago when we passed it, and we couldn't get it through because it was denied by the chief's office. So I'm still for it, and I think it's going to help some people. I don't think it's going to help a lot of people, but it is going to help some. Thank you, sir.
Councilor Keener.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I appreciate all the comments I've heard thus far, and I'll try to be brief. I do know that each one of us wants to help the Cherokee people, and how to do that is the problem here. In one of our committee meetings, they said the devil is in the details, and that's correct. And there's no detailing of how that money will be dispersed in this act. So again, there's the U.S. government, the way they do things, or the Cherokee Nation, the way they do things, as far as medical priorities. And the IHS has 4 priorities. Again, there's 4, and they only get to number 1. So there's no, as Councilwoman Fishing Hawk said, there's no guarantee that all the Cherokees will be helped. There will be some that will be helped, but it will be a lengthy process to go through the appeal process, and then how far will that money go? Councilman Thornton's absolutely correct. This is a bottomless pit. We'll never be able to address every need in the Cherokee Nation. But this friendly amendment with the inclusion of all the the count of all the districts would help that as far as the detail of the Cherokee getting that benefit. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Snell.
Yes, I would like to make a comment. What Jody had talked about, I've got a constituent that has been waiting for 5 years to get a knee replacement. Yesterday they told me at Claremore that IHS just didn't require, they wouldn't let them fix the joints, knees and so forth. They said that is not even covered. It's not a medical issue. And they said that IHS just will not cover it, and that's why she hadn't been helped in 5 years. So I would like to give some of my time to Todd Enlow and let him tell us what is the chief's answer to this contract help.
I'd been asked to relay a message on behalf of Chief Baker. As an original sponsor of the legislation, as you can see there, he is in favor of equal treatment and making sure that the money does go to citizens and trying to meet the needs of contract health. So I just wanted to relay that message on behalf of Chief Baker. He's in favor of making sure that the money does go to meet the needs of the citizens throughout the 14 counties.
Thank you. Counselor Watts.
Thank
Oh,
you.
excuse
So,
me. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Okay. Counselor Watts.
I think that much like our constituents, there's still confusion, even though we have put the maps out and the memo that explains it. And that's an actual memo from Claremore Indian Hospital that would go to a patient. So if you adopt with the friendly amendment that it's all 14 counties, that if they were, for example, exclude or denied by Claremore Indian Hospital or Creek Nation, inpatient or outpatient contract health, then they could then access Cherokee Nation Health Services contract health. This money would not be given to Claremore Indian Hospital, it would not be given to Creek Nation. This would be kept in-house at Cherokee Nation and administered by our staff to Cherokee Nation citizens if they have been denied by Claremore Indian Hospital, for example. And I think Councilman Snell's observation of what happened in Delaware County is a perfect example. So in Delaware County, outpatient is covered by the Cherokee Nation, so that constituent knows that they need a knee surgery. They've been given those appointments. They were approved and funded for those consultations to know they needed a knee surgery. Then it stops short because inpatient, which would be the actual surgery, is served by Claremore Indian Hospital. Therefore, if we do not allow and change policy at Cherokee Nation with this additional language in this act, they would still be precluded. All the money would only go to the areas where on that chart, on that letter, it says that Cherokee Nation serves that either inpatient or outpatient. Rogers County would not access any of this money because both inpatient and outpatient are served by Claremore Indian Hospital. So we would definitely be putting additional money where we already know, according to our former group leader, Melissa Gower from Health, when we were reported 2 months ago, that 96% of the contract health service patients or cases that are given to Cherokee Nation under our current existing areas we cover are funded. They're approved. So we would only be throwing money at a place where there's not necessarily much room for improvement. And you can see all of that on there. So if we do not include, whether it's 5% or 10%, if we do not include this language, we do not protect our citizens in many of the counties throughout the Cherokee Nation, which affects every district. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. We're going to vote on the motion to amend the initial act that was presented.
Point of order, that's Council Karen
Yes.
Watts' vote.
Right. As amended, where it's stricken the counties and includes the entire Cherokee County area, plus the additional provision that Councilor Jordan had added to the other act.
And what, can you, somebody state that for me, please, again?
It's this, the 10%, the one that you have
Okay.
in front of you.
So this vote is about the 10%.
Yes, which strikes the counties and includes all 14 counties. And then with the same caveat, that so long as the amount of the increase is conditioned upon CNE and CNB remaining in compliance with the financial covenants of the credit agreement and CNE guarantee.
There was not a friendly amendment for 5% on top of the 14 counties?
No. Okay. So, roll call vote, please.
Just point of clarification, I'm just making sure. A no vote means we're not voting for this.
Right.
Okay.
David Walkingstick,
No.
Kara Cowan Watts,
Yes.
Bill England,
Yes.
Jack Baker,
Yes.
Julia Coates,
Yes.
Jody Fishinghawk,
No.
Meredith Fraley,
Yes.
Janelle Fulbright,
No.
Don Garvin, Chuck Hoskin,
No.
Tana Glory Jordan,
No.
Lee Keener,
Yes.
Dick Lay,
No.
Curtis Snell,
Yes.
David Thornton.
No.
We have 7 yes and 7 no.
7 yes, 7 no, so the motion failed. Okay. Now we're back to the discussion on the
Mr. Speaker,
initial,
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
I would like to make a friendly amendment on the 5% to add all 14 counties. The same language, all 14 counties.
Which language?
From the amendment.
From the amendment that we just had. We had a friendly amendment over the amendment.
Okay, can you specify exactly which language?
Well,
The
we
action-
amended that, the red one, I don't have that copy of mine, so. The original that Chuck was talking about earlier, he says it's in there, but we can't find it in there, but we want to make sure it's in there, all 14 counties are in there, that we get our share of. Shelley, did you get that earlier?
So, well, I need to know exactly where it's going to go. Yes, and the language.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, and correct me if I'm misunderstanding, but Mr. Councilman England, your motion is to reintroduce the amendment, change 10% to 5%, and incorporate the previous language of the 14 count, that it goes to all 14 counties.
All 14 counties.
Correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Is it all the language or exactly?
No, just the counties, just, so it's in the act.
Then I'm in.
Know exactly where it is. We need to know exactly where it is.
He wants to put 14 counties somewhere.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
If I could suggest some simple language that says that the funding provided herein shall be distributed without regard to residency within the 14 counties. I think keeping it that simple is the way to do it.
Right here, it's in the
Yeah.
So do you,
Mr. Chairman, since my understanding we're on the original act.
yes, we are.
And there's a concern raised among some counselors about ensuring that we're essentially going to be having, for lack of a better phrase, everyone having an equal shot. And my suggestion is that an additional sentence be added that the funding provided herein shall be expended without regard to citizenship within the 14.
Okay. Well, first, he asked for a friendly amendment with this language that is not crossed out. So that's the request.
But I agree with Councilman Hoskins. I think we can simplify it as long as we have all 14 counties in this act.
Funding shall be, funding under this section shall be expended to Cherokee citizens without regard to their residency within the 14 counties. I think very simply captures the essence of what everyone believes.
No. County jurisdiction.
The 14 county jurisdiction.
Okay. So we're clear on that, and you have the language.
And if I hear the councilman right, that is now his friendly, and if that's the case, I would accept.
And the second,
I want you to reiterate what we're changing.
We're going to add a sentence at the end of section 4. Well, I guess it says 18. It would say, funds expended under this section shall be expended to Cherokee citizens without regard to their residency, who reside anywhere within the 14-county jurisdiction. Okay.
Go over it one more time.
okay. I requested that you read it one more time.
I'll give it a shot. Funds expended under this section shall be expended to Cherokee citizens residing anywhere within the 14-county jurisdictional area.
And that's the only line that we're adding?
That's the only line we're adding.
Because I'm not, that was not what I heard on Buell's friendly amendment.
But that's what I think the councilman is agreeable to.
And I've
He's agreed
agreed
to that.
with
You have
Councilor
agreed to
Hawkins,
that
yes.
exact language?
Absolutely.
Okay. So the friendly amendment was accepted. Now I have Councilor Fraley.
Mine's not an amendment, it's just a suggestion that the council and administration work together and develop a plan, because everybody seems concerned where the money's going, and develop a plan with administration and as how it's going to be administered.
So no
So
motion,
that's just
nothing
a
on it.
suggestion. If you want to appoint somebody, then just point away.
No. I just wanted to be sure there wasn't a motion in there of any kind. Okay. Councilor Thornton? There was a slew of hands went up all at once. Okay. Councilor Coates?
Yes, I wondered if Councilor Hoskin might consider another friendly amendment that in the Section 4, Article 3, Section 18 that we're reading, if the insertion of nation behind Cherokee would be acceptable to you. That would give it truly that this is to our monies, from our government to our citizens, rather than the sort of ethnic designation of just Cherokees.
I certainly don't have a problem with that.
And the second
Okay.
thing,
Yes. Well, first, he agrees. Does the second agree that it says Cherokee Nation citizens?
where it says contract health services for Cherokee citizens, if we could specify Cherokee Nation citizens, and likewise in the language that Councilor Hoskin just added in those two places.
So you want to add the word nation?
Nation. Mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
So that has
And then my second friendly amendment, or request for friendly amendment, would be that the last paragraph in Councilor Watts' proposed amendment that just failed be incorporated into this act. If Cherokee Nation businesses' annual net income decreases, et cetera, that paragraph to be added in as well.
And Mr. Chairman, I have that language in front of me, and I respectfully don't accept it as a friendly amendment. I do think it's incumbent upon us, anytime we see our businesses, if they're struggling, to review legislation that impacts them, but I don't necessarily want that to be some sort of triggering mechanism. So, you know, with all due respect, I don't accept it as a friendly
Okay,
amendment.
then I would make that in the form of a motion.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on adding the last paragraph in red to the initial act?
Mr. Chairman, just to keep us on point, as I follow the discussion, the sentence stated by Councilman Hoskin and agreed to by Councilman England has been accepted as a friendly amendment, so it is therefore
Yes.
now part of the act.
Yes.
Okay,
it
I was
is.
just wanting to make sure that we're not making an amendment to the amendment. So
Right.
your amendment
And
stands as a
also,
standalone amendment.
the friendly where it adds nation.
Nation, got
Nation
that, got that.
citizens.
That's, just wanted to make sure I was on track.
So now the motion has been made and seconded that we add the last paragraph in red to the act. And I will read this. It says, the Cherokee Nation businesses' annual net income decreases to the point where the tribal dividend becomes a detriment to the businesses and/or business diversification efforts, the tribal council shall review the dividend percentage. If Cherokee Nation business is paying interest of equal or greater value than the tribal dividend, the tribal council shall review the dividend percentage to protect the long-term health and stability of the tribal businesses. So that's what we're voting on now. Councilor Fishingham.
Can't we already do that without adding that?
Pardon?
Can't we already do that?
Well,
Yes, no?
but, yes, but, well, I don't know whether it's yes or no, but that's the motion that's on the floor. Councilor Combs.
We can always do that. I think that this requires that we do it, which we would always hope that any council would do that, and any future council would do that. But I'm a little bit leery. We come through some very tough political seasons sometimes, and you know, we don't know what's going to happen in the future. And I just would feel much more confident that a council will do what they, as you correctly point out, should do, if we have some language here that will.
Okay.
Point of information. Due to what David gave us, we don't need that language because of what Tanya inserted in there. Is my understanding, that's what it says. Am I mistaken? Remember what Stuart gave to us?
So, Councilor Oskin.
Well, I appreciate Councilor Coates' concerns about making sure that future councils do, pay close attention. I think we will. I get concerned though when we put this into legislation where it essentially becomes a law that we have to do something if it becomes a detriment to the businesses or business diversification efforts. What happens when, in the eye of someone, it becomes a detriment? I don't know how you measure that exactly, but it becomes a detriment in someone's mind, someone's eyes, and we don't act in a particular month or a particular couple of months, 3 months, a year. At what point do we become actually breaking the law because there was a difference of an opinion over whether it was detrimental? I think we need to reserve to the good judgment of this council and future councils whether there's been a detriment. So I would encourage us not to pass this motion. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councilor Fishingham, did you have something to add?
Well, that's what that was what I'm curious about because of the word shall in there. That's what throws it and makes it a concern.
Okay. Councilor Lay, and then I'm going to cut the discussion off on this part and get back to the original act. Councilor Lay.
Okay, thank you. Kara, is your concern about these funds not getting to your constituents and Buell's and mine and Chuck's and Meredith's? Are your concerns taken care of now, or?
No, that's not relevant to the motion that's on the floor. We can come back to that.
Sorry?
But that's
a good question.
But it doesn't relate to the motion that's on the floor, and we can come back to it in the overall if you like. Okay. The motion is to add the last paragraph in red, which I read to you a while ago. So,
I just want to make sure, because with everything that's happening, voting no means we're not adding this paragraph in red. Okay.
yes. Okay. Roll call.
Meredith Fraley,
Yes.
Janelle Fulbright,
Yes.
Don Garvin, Chuck Hoskin Jr.,
No.
China Glory Jordan,
No.
Lee Keener,
Yes.
Dick Lay,
No.
Curtis Snell,
No.
David Thornton,
No.
David Walkingstick,
No.
Karen Callan Watts.
Yes.
Bill England,
Yes.
Jack Baker,
Yes.
Julia Coates,
Yes.
Jody Fishinghawk,
No.
Seven and seven again.
7 and 7. Motion failed. Okay, now we're back to discussion on the original. And the question's been called. So, all those in favor?
Can I just make sure, what we're voting on now is our original act
As
with
amended.
the slight amendments that we've made to it. So
Yes.
by voting yes, we're voting on the act that has come through
Yes.
2 committees and now through this 3rd committee.
Yes. Is everyone clear?
May
Our
I,
voting.
may I answer Councilman Lay's question?
Yes. Well, the question's
It's already
been called. So, okay. Roll call vote.
David Thornton,
Yes.
David Walkingstick.
Yes.
Kara Cowan Watts,
Yes.
Bill England,
Yes.
Jack Baker,
No.
Julia Coates,
No.
Jody Fishinghawk,
Yes.
Meredith Fraley,
No.
Janelle Fulbright,
Yes.
Don Garvin, Chuck Hoskin Jr.,
Yes.
Tina Glory Jordan,
Yes.
Lee Keener,
Yes.
Dick Lay,
Yes.
Curtis Snell.
Yes.
We have 11 yes and
11 yes and 3 no. So, the act passed. Next is item 2, is the budget mod. Doug.
Mr. Chairman, Treasurer Ketcher sent over an amendment request that I did a memo on. Hopefully you all have it in front of you regarding the inauguration.
Yes.
Mod 2 is very short. Has a little over $500,000 in the general fund with $250,000 that being in the capital improvement reserve, form a carryover for the court mall facade and the Supreme Court temporary location. $100,000 of registration database project money and a veteran center for $231,000. The security department has a $71,000 increase, and environmental reviews has a $36,000 increase for some new equipment.
I entertain a motion
Move for approval.
with the amendment.
With the amendment.
Okay, the motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion?
Question.
Yes, Councilor President.
So, Ms. Ketcher,
Yes.
why is this coming out of the, I'm not against it, it's just why is it coming out of contingency?
Well, because as of right now, we don't have any unappropriated gen fund dollars, so that's the only place to take the money from at this point, until we bring carryover forward in March.
Oh, okay.
Any other discussion? It is an act, you want it by acclamation. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passed by acclamation. Item 3 is the Department of Justice grant application.
Move for approval.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. It passed. We appreciate your being here for it.
Thank you, Mitchell.
So,
Thank you, Reba.
are there any
Thank you,
announcements?
Jay.
Are there any announcements?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned.